Oh, muted, okay.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our Google Hangout on weeding. What you need to know about weeding. I am on my own today. Holly is unfortunately out sick today, but we did create the presentation together, and we're going to go through it, and there should be time for questions when we're done. Please make sure you mute your microphone when you're not speaking. And utilize the chat feature when you have a question. I am monitoring that on my computer, so I will be able to see your questions. If you haven't already signed in, please go ahead and do so via the link to the Google form. All right, so weeding is a thought process. It is not a list of publication dates. We often get asked for a report. Can I just run a report that will tell me what to remove from my collection? And if only it were that simple. You really need to go through each book one by one. This is just an example of why we weed. These are some of the gems that we pulled from collections this year. Okay? I'm pretty sure that our students have no idea what that tape recorder is, what this girl is talking on, or even what this Boy Scout is carrying. We definitely need to weed. We analyze, we weed, and we build our collections. The first step is to analyze. Please run a title-wise analysis from your Destiny Library Manager. This one is from Forest Hill Elementary School Library. You can see that their collection is out of balance. They are only 34% fiction, 66% nonfiction, and 63% of their items are considered aged. This is a great help for you. However, your title-wise analysis is only as good as your most recent, correctly completed, and finalized inventory. If you have not done an inventory recently and finalized it, your title-wise analysis will not be accurate, and it is not a great source of information for you. So please do your inventories. And then we weed. Both the abridged and the full version of the Crude Guidelines can be found on the resource page of the LMS Google site in the folder labeled Weeding. They're also in our PD Central, the Google Classroom, and I will post them where we post this website, or where we post the Google Hangout. They are a huge resource. It's a lot of reading. It's important reading. From the Crude Guidelines, we have the MUSTI acronym, which is misleading and or factual inaccuracies, ugly, worn out beyond mending or rebinding, superseded by a new edition or a better source, trivial, no discernible literary or scientific value, irrelevant to the needs and interests of your community, and elsewhere it's easily obtained from another source. The biggest source of the misleading or factual inaccuracies will be your 500s and 900s. Ugly goes without saying. Elsewhere, for example, would be a physical copy of an encyclopedia. Okay, these are just some helpful hints for weeding. This is from Library Girl. If you don't follow Jennifer Lagarde, she is a wonderful source of information about weeding, collection development, new books, you name it. Her acronym is FRESH. Does it foster a love of reading? Does it reflect your diverse population? Does it reflect an equitable global view? Does it support the curricula? And is it a high quality text? If the answer is no, then please weed it from your collection, with the caveat that we don't have a ton of funding. And it's really hard to replace the titles that we weed, so you can't go as deep as you may want to. All right, so the publication date is only one factor to consider. Areas where publication date is the more critical are the 500s to the 600s. That's going to cover your medicine, your space, earth science, biology, climate science. It's often more critical at the secondary level than the elementary book, because a simple book describing the characteristics of a black bear versus a study on the effects of a habitat loss and climate change on black bears with 10-year-old statistics is vast. Right? We could keep that 10-year-old book, that's a simple book, on the characteristics of a black bear, but the one with the study and the effects of habitat loss is going to have misleading information. Another thing to definitely consider are social issues that could change. Current drug issues, the opioid crisis versus LSD. As our children change and our world changes, so do the issues that our students face. Things to think about. Does this book meet a curricular need, even if it's not often used? Can I book talk it or display this title to encourage interest? Is this title on a list of culturally relevant titles like the African American Read Aloud list, the Hispanic American Read Aloud list, a list of recommended African American titles that was disseminated 2 years ago, and part of the Center for Disease Control grant to decrease bullying and create understanding of marginalized groups. These books, the books on these lists, we need to keep in our collection. Okay? And then you build. You need to work on some quality book selections. Using reviewing sources appropriate to your grade level. The ALA Youth Media Award lists, SLJ Best of lists, outstanding science trade books for students K to 12. Remember to invest in the sections where you weeded titles. Keep a consideration file at all times. One of the things I used to do when I was school-based is I had a list going at all times, one in Mackin, one in Follett, of books that I would like to add to my collection should funding become available. That way, the minute funding becomes available, you have your list, you're ready to go, and you can place that order. And repeat this process. You need to make it routine. Review a Dewey section or two a month. Remove those musty books as they come through the book return. Review fiction. Review your fiction section for unneeded multiple copies, and keep your consideration file handy. It's an ongoing process to get your library collection where it needs to be and where you would like it to be. If you want more information, just ask to borrow this title from the professional library. Shoot Zoraida an email. She is the manager. She runs the professional library for us, and she will be happy to check that book out to you and pony it to you at your school site. Before I move on to the Jim Harbin, are there questions about weeding? I know I went really fast. I wanted to make sure I covered everything. And it was a quick overview. Any questions, go ahead and shoot them in the chat box. You can unmute your microphone, ask me a question before I move on. None? So my biggest piece of advice is to read one section or two a school year and then move on. You're not going to be able to replace all the books in every section. So if you do 500s and 600s this year, you can do the 900s next year, paying special attention to the biographies. Is the person still alive? Do they still have relevance? There's lots of different considerations to take in. There's lots of different things to take into consideration when reading a biography. I just want to plug Jim Harbin. We have 4 levels, K to 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12. We have 10 categories. There's animation, book trailers, comedy, documentary, drama, instructional video, music video, news feature, news show, and a public service announcement. All of your submissions have to have a storyboard, written permission to use copyrighted information. All of that information must be on one document, and it must include citations for images and music that are in the Creative Commons. There are 2 and possibly 3 levels of competition. If you want to enter a video, it must be submitted by April 3rd via a Google form. That is a hot link, and you will need to fill out the form for each video that you want to enter. I've sent out more information. If you need any more information, please feel free to email me or Chad Smith at Roosevelt Middle. He is the other Jim Harbin chair for Palm Beach County. We have upcoming professional development. Monday, immediately following the EMA Principals Breakfast, the session will be at the DoubleTree. It's going to be 2 hours. Bring a device, register in e-learning. Cicely Lewis is going to be amazing. She is a 2019 School Library Journal mover and shaker, and she will be sharing about culturally relevant literature and how to program in our media centers using this literature. On February 28th, from 8 to 3:30 at Gardens High School, we're going to have professional development called Sparking Creativity in Your Media Center. It's going to be led by education evangelist Tanya Abrith. If you were at the technology conference, she was one of the featured speakers. Please bring a device and register in e-learning. Make sure you tag us on social media. If you are looking for points for this course and you're attending live, please register in e-learning. We will take attendance via the Google Hangout or the Google form, and you can get, I think it's 2 points for every session. On that note, the follow-up for today's session is to identify a section of your library that needs to be weeded. Weed that section, save the weeding log as your last name _weeding, and upload to e-learning. It could simply be the 500 section, and you weed just that 500 section, and that will be your follow-up for this. I'm going to throw this out there for questions. Laura, can you send the links to the LMS Google site, the LMS Google Classroom? Yes, I can. I will go ahead and get those. And the hashtag was, oh, come on. Go backwards. PBC LMS. Any other questions I can answer about weeding? We have plenty of time. Throw them out there in the chat box, and I am happy to answer those questions. All right. Okay, Laura, besides stamping discard inside the weeded books, what else should we do to the books? You remove the barcode and you pack them up in boxes. You place the weeded materials. It's a sheet, weeded materials sheet on top of it, and then you organize pickup through your instructional materials contact. You cannot just put them in the pony. So I hope that answers that question. Fiction books you can give away. Nonfiction books, please send up here to Library Media Services. And All right. Any questions? Juanita, yes, you can deliver them to Library Media if you would like. And Debbie, call up to media and have them send empty boxes to the school. We do not have empty boxes to send to you guys. I would highly recommend talking to your cafeteria for boxes, or going to Publix for boxes, but we do not have boxes that we can send to you. I wish we did. Oh, yes, pickup will be through your instructional materials contact, and that goes through Nolan. Just let your instructional materials contact know that you have books that need to be picked up, where they're going to be stored, how many boxes, and they will take care of that. Any other questions I can answer about pickup? All right, so Vicki, pickup is when we can get to it. It's not necessarily the fall, but it has to be on their schedules. And we just have a few guys that can come pick it up, and it depends on what they're doing as to how quickly they can come out and get it. So there's no set time for pickup. It just goes through your instructional materials contact, and they will get to you as soon as they possibly can. Any other questions? And somebody had asked what the follow-up was. I'm going to put that back up. There's the follow-up. Any last questions? We still have about 10 minutes left. I'm happy to address those questions. All right, Debbie, I don't know the whether or not they have boxes, but I do know Library Media does not have boxes. So if the gentleman that came to pick them up had boxes for you, that's fantastic. Juanita, I'm so glad that you appreciate these sessions. We're happy to do them. It's a great way for us to get information to you easily. Laura, no, we changed the Google Classroom from last year because the new Google Classroom has a better format. So there is a new one. I will make sure you're a member of that classroom when we conclude. Any last questions? All right, Laura, you should have an invite for the Google Classroom. And I shared, Laura, I also shared the Library Media Services help site with you. So you should have a link to that as well in your email. If there aren't any other questions, I will say goodbye. If you haven't yet signed in, please make sure that you sign in. I'll leave the forum open for about the next 10 minutes or so. That gives you a chance to go ahead and sign in. You're very welcome, Casey. You're welcome, Debbie.